In 3.5 years, I built my agency from zero to over $500,000 in monthly revenue, and I sold it in a multi-7-figure deal. Most agency owners are building businesses or agencies that will never sell. They are trapped in day-to-day operations, they don't have any systems, and they have zero enterprise value beyond the money they make or the revenue they're currently generating. My name is Gill, and I built my agency from day one with an exit in mind. And I followed a specific 7-step system that increased the valuation and made my agency attractive to buyers. Today, I'm going to walk you through that exact system. You'll learn what makes an agency sellable, how to increase your valuation multiple, the timeline you need, and the documentation required. Look, most agencies, even the ones that are making decent revenue, have no real enterprise value. I've seen agencies that are doing 6 figures a month with absolutely zero enterprise value. And honestly, it's more common for a 7-figure agency to have no value than to have real transferable value. And the reason behind that is simple. They are completely dependent upon you or me, the founder. Sure, they might have employees, they might have team members, operations, maybe even salespeople. But the truth is this: if the founder stepped out of that business for more than 30 days, everything would fall apart. The founder is the decision maker, they're the driver, they're the visionary, and there aren't real operational systems in place that would allow someone else to step in, take over, and run that business at the same level. Most founders at this stage are struggling with hiring high-level individuals. They don't know what positions they should invest in. They don't know what type of people they actually need. And they don't even know how to recruit senior talent, because up to this point, they've been conditioned to hire low-level talent to keep their payroll expenses down. So as a business or an agency starts to scale, that founder doesn't understand how to make the transition or even whether they need to. Revenue is also extremely unstable in agencies. I've seen churn anywhere from 5% all the way up to 20% month over month. The agency space is competitive, and agencies are always battling to keep their clients. And that part's normal. That's part of the game. The problem is when there is no predictable acquisition system that can consistently keep up and outpace that churn. Now think about this from a buyer's perspective. A buyer is looking at your business as an investment or a potential investment. And there are a few different types of buyers out there. There is the buyer who wants to acquire the agency and actually step in as the operator or the CEO. That person might be more open to buying a business that relies on the founder because they're going to be that new person. But even then, they're typically investing what is a large amount of money for them, which means there's still a lot of risk. And for most 7-figure agencies, this person ends up being the most realistic buyer or their best chance at selling the agency. But here's the problem. This person typically needs SBA financing, and deals fall through all the time. In fact, over 70% of deals never make it to the finish line or completion. That is a very small pool of buyers taking on significant risk. And because of that, those people are usually not willing to pay top dollar. The other type of buyer, the one that you actually want, is looking at your agency purely as an investment. This might be someone who is already in mergers and acquisitions. It might be a firm. It might be an individual with access to a large amount of capital. They want cash flow, but they do not want to run the day-to-day operations. And they definitely don't want to buy a business that is going to fall apart 6 months after they wire the money. They're thinking about things like this: how many deals does this business close per month? Or they're looking at that. What does the revenue look like month over month? Is client acquisition consistent? And can this founder prove that the business will continue to operate if they step away? They're going to do things like interview your employees or your top employees to see if they're confident and capable without you. They're going to interview your clients to understand tenure and experience and consistency. And they're going to want proof of systems, not just what you say, for onboarding clients, onboarding employees, managing churn, fulfillment, everything you could think about. They want to know that the business can operate independently of you. And the truth is that most agencies cannot. Most agencies are completely and utterly reliant upon the founder. The other thing to understand is that buyers don't just want to maintain the business. They want to grow it. They want to see opportunity. And that's a good thing for us as owners. It means that there can be inefficiencies or mistakes that they believe that they can fix in the business. But if those opportunities only exist because you're there and things get worse without you, not better, that alone will kill the deal. So here is the 7-step system that I install in my own agencies and several others in order to prepare for exit. These 7 steps might sound foundational. They might even sound obvious to you, but these are the exact steps that I implement in my own agencies and with every client that I work with to ensure that we're building something that is both scalable and sellable. The key thing to understand is that all 7 steps that I'm going to outline are connected. Each one is a prerequisite for the next one. The first 4 are fundamental. They are absolutely mandatory if you want a sellable agency. Steps 5, 6, and 7 are where 7-figure agencies transition into real enterprise value. So I'll walk you through this. Step 1 is niche validation. The first thing that you need to do is identify your ICP and make sure that you're operating in a niche that can actually scale. General agencies or agencies that serve anyone and everyone, they struggle to get to 7 figures. Their acquisition is harder because their messaging is weaker, which means their client acquisition costs go up. And a lot of agencies have this completely backwards. They believe that in the beginning, being a general agency gives them a bigger total addressable market, when in reality, it causes more issues. If you want to expand your niche or your ICP, you do it later. You are far better off starting your agency in the beginning with a defined ICP or niche. And when selecting a niche, one rule that I live by is this: I only will enter or work with a niche with at least 10,000 viable businesses. That means 10,000 real opportunities that I can sell to. Beyond that, I conduct market research to validate demand, pricing, competition, and ROI. Now, there are obviously a lot of proven niches already out there, and the most saturated ones are usually saturated because they work, because they're proven. Niches like fitness centers, chiropractors, med spas, dentists, home services, like roofers or contractors. These are all validated, proven markets. If agencies want to go general, they should only do it after they've selected one of these niches and they're generating over $500,000 in monthly revenue. Before that, the resources that are required to fulfill in multiple niches, it just doesn't make sense. You're gonna spread yourself too thin, your margins will get worse. Sales and acquisition is harder when you're selling to all different ICPs. So step 1 is deciding who you're going to sell to. And we do that through market research. We figure out the total addressable market, competition, pricing models, and ROI potential. If you wanna build a sellable agency, you need to be able to consistently generate 10 to 25 high ticket deals every single month and outpace that churn I talked about. Niche selection and validation is the first requirement. And that leads directly to step 2, which is scalable service design. This is where most agencies get stuck in what I call freelancer mode. They do everything for everyone. And the reason behind this is simple. They need money. So when someone reaches out and asks for a website or SEO or something custom, they take that deal. But this creates a vicious cycle. Agencies take custom projects because they can't consistently generate leads and new deals. But custom fulfillment makes it impossible to systematize delivery. And without systems, they can't scale. And without scale, they can't stabilize acquisition. And this cycle repeats itself. From a buyer's perspective, this is a nightmare. Buyers want an assembly line. So let's say that you work with roofers and your core service is lead generation for those roofers. If you can show that every roofer goes through the same process, copy, creative, ads, optimization, lead nurture, appointment booking, then you can systemize fulfillment. The client does not dictate the service. You as the agency dictate the service to the client. And this is where having an irresistible offer comes in. If prospects are buying a result, not a custom service, you get to control delivery. This allows you to build acquisition systems that work at scale. At this point, just with the first 2 steps, you now have a defined niche, an offer, and a scalable service delivery model. You know who you're selling to, you know what you're selling them, and how you're delivering it. So you're no longer guessing where the next client is going to come from or what they are going to ask for or what you're going to have to fulfill for them. That's how scalable agencies are built. Step number 3 is building a scalable acquisition system. And inside that system, we do 2 things. We build your unique mechanism and your sales framework. Your unique mechanism becomes your flagship product. It differentiates you in a commoditized market. It creates clear pillars that sales teams can articulate consistently. And then we build your sales scripts and your framework. This increases conversion rates, which is great, but more importantly, it removes sales dependency from you as the founder. Once you have a very clear product and a repeatable sales process, you can now delegate sales to other people. You can hire setters and closers. And this is critical because if you are the one that is still closing every deal, no buyer is interested in your agency. A business that requires the founder to sell is not sellable. Step number 4 is pricing. Custom pricing and proposals kill scale. You want pricing designed to scale to multiple millions annually at a 35 to 45% margin. You don't have to be more greedy than that. One offer, one price, one sales call. Now, every single prospect looks the same. One results-based offer for them, one service, one process. Buyer fatigue drops, decision-making on behalf of the prospect speeds up, your systems become scalable or possible. Yes, some people might pay more for custom work, but ask yourself this question as the owner. Is one $10,000 a month client better than 50, $2,500 a month clients with healthy margins? Founders obsess over charging more because they're the ones still doing all the work. As you remove yourself from operations, the priority becomes scale, consistency, and profit, not ego pricing. Those first 4 steps build a scalable acquisition system. So after you've completed steps 1 through 4, steps 5, 6, and 7 are what actually allow you to sell the business. So step number 5 is 7-figure operations. And at this level, buyers expect real infrastructure, hiring systems, hiring funnels, client onboarding systems, SOPs, legal structure, documentation, delegation. Every function in your agency needs a system. If you're listening to this and you're realizing that your agency is still heavily dependent on you, the founder, where you can see the gap between where your business is today and what a real buyer would actually want, there's a link somewhere around this video where you can learn more about how we work with agencies one-on-one. This isn't a course, it's not theory, it's not general coaching. This is us actually helping founders like you install these systems inside their agency step by step with the goal of building something that is not just scalable, but is sellable. And the reason we're able to do this confidently is because everything that we focus on is tied directly to enterprise value, not vanity metrics, not just top line growth for the sake of it. So if that's something you want to explore, click the link, read through our landing page or whatever it is, and see if it resonates. And if it does, great. And if not, no pressure. Just keep watching because the framework itself will still be valuable to you. And just so this is clear, our private client program isn't for everyone. But if you're serious about building an agency that could actually be sold one day or be acquired, and you want real help installing the systems that buyers care about, there's a link below where you can see how we work with founders to do exactly that, while tying everything to measurable enterprise value. Take a look, and if it feels aligned, great. And then come back here because the rest of the video will make a lot more sense. Now the final 2 steps. Step 6, which is enterprise acquisition. Now this is something I discovered inside my own agency and by networking with other agency owners. The most successful agencies all had one thing in common when I looked at them and I noticed something. They didn't only sell one-to-one, they sold one-to-many. They partnered with large groups like franchises, associations, coaching groups, software companies, any one of these larger groups that had access to many clients in their niche. And when they formed partnerships, they were able to sell from stages, sell on webinars, have preferred vendor relationships with these partners. Enterprise acquisition allows you to scale faster, lower your client acquisition cost, and increase the enterprise value of your agency. So now when you completed step 6 and you've went from selling one-to-one to being able to sell one-to-many and one-to-one, and you completed the 4 foundational steps in your agency, step number 7 is exit preparation. And to prepare agencies for exit or to make them sellable, we do things like run exit simulations, due diligence runs. We build data rooms before we even need them or even know what that means inside our agency. Because the biggest mistake that I see 7-figure agencies make is they get to the point at which they want to sell or they're interested in selling, and they simply call up a broker and decide to go to the market unprepared. And then during due diligence, buyers or potential buyers that maybe put an LOI out, they start poking holes in the business because every business has holes to be poked. And the goal is to be prepared for this level of negotiation. What happens typically is founders get beaten down during negotiation and the offer or the price drops, fatigue sets in, and they end up taking whatever they can get and walk away. And here's the hard truth. Brokers are not aligned with you. They simply want to close a deal to get their commission. You want maximum value for the business that you put your blood, sweat, and tears into. If you want to sell your agency, you have to prepare months or even years in advance. Otherwise, the statistics will work against you. So that is the complete 7-step system to prepare your agency for a 7 or even an 8-figure exit. You have to start preparing years before you want to sell. I started building my agency with the exit in mind from day 1. I knew that I wanted to eventually sell it. So every system I implemented, every process I documented, every hire I made was moving me towards a 7-figure sale. Buyers are going to want to see years of systematized operations, consistent revenue growth, and proven independence from you, the founder. You can't just wait until you're ready or you decide you want to sell to start preparing. By then, it's too late. If you want to keep learning, check out this video on the screen right now. YouTube thinks you like it. I'll see you over there.